Hello and welcome back to Badass of the Week. My name is Ben Thompson, and we have something pretty special for you today. The episode is releasing on April Fool's Day, so I went on Ridiculous History recently, and instead of talking about a badass, I talked about what I believe is quite possibly the least badass battle of all time. We're going to release this as a two-parter. First one's coming out today, and the second part will be on Thursday. Please stay tuned. I had a lot of fun on the show, and I think you guys are going to really like it. Thanks.
This is a pretty blatant segue because, friends and neighbors, we are joined with a guy. Now, I know I sound biased because his name is also Ben, but you remember a little while back, we talked with the guy who created the concept of a badass of the week. That's right, folks. We are joined today with none other than the creator of Badass of the Week, an ongoing exploration of history that is ridiculous in the most amazing way. Please join us in welcoming the one and only Ben Thompson.
Hello, thank you guys for having me on the show. I regret to inform you that I do not have dulcet tones and I am not appearing with a badass today.
No,
just
that's
double
okay.
disappointment for you guys.
You're the only badass we need, and don't sell your tones short, buddy. They're dulcet. They're plenty dulcet.
No, you're in the band for sure. You're in the band.
Okay, all right. I'll take it. I'm not going to say no. You know.
What's your voice? What's your vocal register? Are you like a baritone, tenor?
I don't know. I have
Contralto?
a list of. I'm at the level where I have a list of songs on my telephone that I cannot stray from if I put my name in for karaoke.
Yeah,
You know
what's your
what I mean?
karaoke? What are your karaoke
share.
picks? What are your karaoke
I
picks?
generally stick to like Cake and the Violent Femmes and bands that don't
All right.
involve singing,
All
just
right.
speak the words, that kind of thing.
I respect that.
But I
Heck
have this list, and it's like, these are the ones that I know, because, there's nothing worse with karaoke than getting up there and the music starts and you do the first line of the song.
Oh no,
and you're
you
like,
blank.
You're like, uh-oh, not only can I not sing this, but I don't know all the words to it. And it's super long.
Well,
you get up there, you're like,
you know
I'll do
what I
Bohemian
say.
Rhapsody. Everybody will sing along. And you start and you're like, I can't do
Yeah.
this. Nobody's
Oh my
singing
God.
along. You're like, I
Crowd
just want to
pleaser.
die. I just want to put the
That
microphone
is
down
a
and walk
rookie
away.
mistake. Bohemian Rhapsody, never. It's almost as bad as doing like Stairway to Heaven. But I do have to say the most important thing when it comes to karaoke and history is going the distance.
Yes. You
Going
can make
for
up for a
speed.
lot of lack of talent with effort.
Oh my gosh. I'm feeling very called out now. But speaking of talent, speaking of effort and acumen, Ben, congratulations on 100 episodes of Badass of the Week.
Yeah,
My
100th
guy.
episode recently. So that's awesome. The website started in 2004. So the website can drink now. That's how old that is. And and now the podcast had 100 episodes. So, that's, the good news is it's hard to run out of badasses to talk about in history, which
I
is
love that.
really
Yeah.
fun. Every time I do an episode, every week I do one episode, but I get like 5 recommendations for somebody I haven't written about before. So the list continues to get bigger.
And yet you say you come to us today badass free. What's that about?
Yes.
Explain yourself, sir.
So Badass of the Week comes out on Tuesdays, and I'm going to, double post this episode on my feed. But for me, this episode will be released on April Fool's Day. So I always, it's rare. I used to update the website on Fridays. The podcast comes out on Tuesdays. But whenever like the exact day lands on an April Fool's, I like to try to do something fun. So today, rather than talk about a badass, I want to talk about the dumbest battle in history, as far as I'm concerned.
Ooh, which is, that's a competitive list.
It's a
of
competitive
top
list, and
dumbest.
you would think it would be really difficult to pick the dumbest battle in history. I'm in Washington State. We had a pig war here, where
we know about the pig war.
yeah.
We did the pig war, didn't we, Ben? We did the pig war. We had to.
There was a war entirely based on a guy losing an ear.
The War of Jenkins' ear.
Yes, yeah, they put it in the name.
Something about throwing potatoes from a submarine. I seem to remember that one. I do have to say, though, Ben, I hope that the ridiculousness of this battle really makes up for our mega dry episode on the Russo-Japanese War that we did recently.
Well, the Russo-Japanese War War is pretty badass. Like Admiral Togo is
Mm-hmm.
nuts. Like that Battle of Tsushima is insane.
So Ben, set the scene for us. First off, also clearly I'm biased because I love other people named Ben. I'm sorry. I don't want to make it weird, but I do want to be transparent.
You're making it a little weird, honestly.
That's a good way. I'm just going to refer to you guys collectively as the Bens.
All right.
The Bens,
so, yeah. So
sounds dangerous.
Baby's got the Bens.
So let's cast our memories back to first off, start this way. Ben, Noel, Max, fellow ridiculous historians, have you ever traveled to Austria?
When I was a young German boy, I most likely set foot in Austria, but not since then. No, I don't believe so.
I was an exchange student to Germany in 1996, and we drove down to Bavaria. We crossed over into Salzburg, and I went to the castle there. I saw where Mozart was born, and I climbed up to the top of the castle there. That was pretty cool.
Did you see where Arnold Schwarzenegger was born?
I didn't, but I learned something interesting about Arnold recently that made me laugh. Apparently, and this is going to be one of, I'm sure, many segues that
We're
have
keeping
very
it
little
all
to do.
in.
Oh, boy, are we.
I learned something interesting about Arnold
seat.
recently that he wanted to, when the Terminator came out, he wanted to do the German dub of the Terminator because he speaks German and it's going to be released in Germany. But apparently he is from some mountain town in Austria and he has some like super rednecky German accent. And so they were like, no, nobody will believe that the sophisticated cyborg killing machine from the future talks like a hillbilly. So we're going to dub you with somebody else with a much more like appropriate German accent.
Oh, wow. All right. I love it. And it goes to show that even the most modern badass has a couple things that stay with them.
Yes,
you know?
Nothing's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect.
Nothing's perfect, right? And even the most sophisticated militaries can sometimes step on their own toes.
Foisted on their own petard.
So take us, like, we're not just spinning our wheels here, right? We're not just we're not just flexing our lederhosen or what have you.
Is that a thing you can do? They are a little tight around
well,
the
they
waist.
have like suspender-esque.
Well, when you do those oompa dance moves, they gotta have a little give to it, or you might rip the back out.
Yeah, that'd be
dangerous,
disastrous. That's worse than trying to do Bohemian Rhapsody karaoke, blowing out your lederhosen and trying to dance the oompa.
By the way, guys, oompa version of Bohemian Rhapsody. Just saying, just putting that out there. The world needs this. So sorry, carry on, please.
No,
with your tale.
let's call Weird Al on this. Let's get top men
the
for this one.
Polka Rhapsody. I'm sure maybe it's been done. I don't know. I feel like there's so many versions of that song.
Well, there's also an oompa version of everything.
Yes,
so that's sort of the whole deal.
I love that. I love that there's an oompa version of everything. Ben, tell us what friendly fire is.
Okay, friendly fire is when you shoot your own guys by accident. They call it friendly fire. It's not that friendly. It's when you accidentally shoot your own guys on the same side as you.
It is, and in like certain shooter games, if I'm not mistaken, there's like a difficulty level, I think, where you can, friendly fire is a thing. You can't actually, there are certain games where you can kill your own teammates. Yeah,
you'll get banned from team killing in some games. And yeah, like it's a thing. And like,
bit of an own goal, as they say in sport.
Yes. And so when we are going to talk about the Battle of Karánsebes here, it's referred to as a battle, but it's such a friendly fire incident that sometimes it's referred to as just that, a friendly fire incident and not a battle. But I always have seen it written as the Battle of Karánsebes, and I think it is the stupidest battle in history. So we're going to talk about it. And the battle here, we're in a time period that can sometimes be a bit of a black hole, even for like historians. We are in the 1700s in Eastern Europe, which is a time in which everything is fluid, and you have this kind of the height of the Habsburg Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, and there's a lot of weird politics that happen at this time period. And
the Ottomans are still in play, right?
Yes, the Ottomans are still in play. And so let's start
before they were thought of as furniture.
Right. Yes. Back when they were still the Ottomans and they were not Turkey yet. They were the Ottoman Empire. They're around.
What's an Ottoman? That's the thing you put your feet on, right?
Yes.
That's not cool. You don't want to be remembered for that. Bit of a doormat kind of situation.
They invented it, I think. I think it gets its name because it was a thing that they were using. And I think it was fancy, like when they first said, oh, this is exactly what they do, what the Ottoman sultans do. Like they put their feet
It was
up
like
on
the stool boom in Blaine, Indiana from Waiting for Guffman. You know, it's like a whole, an industry that just sprang up over this one esoteric piece of furniture.
Yeah, the Sultan started by making his servants get down on all fours so he could put their feet on their backs. And then they were like, what if we just built a piece of wood?
What if we had a non-human equivalent of this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening.
All right, so the Ottoman Empire, very much in play.
Yes, they're in place. So let's start in the Holy Roman Empire in 1741 with the birth of the future Holy Roman Emperor Joseph II. So Holy Roman Empire, this is the Austro-Hungarian Empire. You'll see it sometimes referred to. We are in Austria. Joseph's mother is the Empress Maria Theresa. And Maria Theresa is badass. We're going to have some badass women that make ancillary appearances in this story. But Maria Theresa, I could talk about her at length. I'm not going to, but she's pretty badass. She takes over the throne of the Holy Roman Empire. She's attacked by Frederick the Great and several other armies. You have this European World War that one of the many European world wars that were happening around this time. She is able to hang on to power in the War of Austrian Succession. She builds up Austria-Hungary, makes it pretty dominant regional power. And then when Frederick the Great comes back in the 7 Years' War, she fights him off much better. 7 Years' War is another big world war. France gets involved. England. In the U.S., we call it the French and Indian War, because England and France were at war and they're fighting over Louisiana. The war's in...
And we're a little self-centered.
Sure, of course, yeah. Well, we were only fighting the French and the Indians. We weren't fighting the Austrians and the Russians. But they were fighting each other in Crimea and in India and whatever. So anyway, Maria Theresa, she's a tough lady. And she has this son, Joseph. He is born in 1741, and he is officially co-ruler. But that just means that he just signs the documents that Maria Theresa puts in front of him. Okay.
King of paperwork.
Yes.
It's like the equivalent of the auto pen that much ado has been made about in the news.
I don't know the story.
You don't know what the auto pen? It's like a thing. Apparently, it's been used for, many, many presidencies where it's a literal mechanical device that recreates a signature on multiple documents at once. Yeah, I didn't know about it either until it's been kind of in the news, but it is something. Actually, we should probably do an episode on the history of the auto pen, because it was very much like an invention that was created to, serve a need, like I think back in like the 60s.
I'm writing it down. With a regular pen. With a regular pen.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we got this emperor of paperwork in action, even though a co-ruler in sort of theory.
Yes. So in 1763, the 7 Years' War ends. He's 22 years old. He is getting a little bit more power. And then when his mother passes away 2 years later, he becomes the ruler of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, so Joseph II, he's an interesting guy. He referred to himself as an enlightened despot, which sounds...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember.
Did he coin that? I feel like I've heard that used to describe other people in it.
I'm not sure whether he invented that or not. Knowing what I know about this guy, probably not. He probably heard the term and liked it and applied it to himself.
Yeah. It said also me.
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm definitely that.
Like someone reposting a meme on Reddit. All right, so he's got this big Victor Von Doom energy.
Yeah, so he's an enlightened despot, which it sounds bad, but it's okay. So basically, the Enlightenment is cool, free thinking is cool, human rights are cool, except for all that anti-king talk. The king is still, we still have to do the aristocracy thing, but freedom of expression, as long as you like me, you can have freedom of expression as long as you don't say anything against me. And he starts bringing in scholars, scientists. He builds universities, hospitals. He reforms the civil law to make it a little bit less repressive. He abolishes slavery and serfdom in the Austro-Hungarian Empire or the Holy Roman Empire.
These all sound like great moves.
These are all great moves.
Also super forward thinking
Yes.
in contrast to places like the Ottoman Empire, which was super down with slavery.
Yes. He passes a religious equality law and even includes the Jews and Muslims in it. You're allowed to be Jewish and Muslim in the Holy Roman Empire. Wow. He's a patron of the arts and music. Mozart and Beethoven come to his court. He actually hires Mozart to be his chamber composer, which had been a vacant spot for a long time. And he's like, "Oh,
Flex.
Mozart, come on, you could be my chamber composer. I'll pay you to make
this.
music for my parades." And so Mozart hated this. He would have to make these little marches for him to appear at these events, but it was a paycheck and he had to get paid, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so, okay, all this is great, except he is the Holy Roman Empire, and the Pope doesn't like a lot of this stuff that's happening. Isn't really down with all of this stuff in 1741. And he's got a lot of Catholic subjects, so there's a little bit of argument among his people as to whether these reforms are good or bad. We see this from time to time, that countries can't agree on the direction the country should be taking.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So all of that's going okay at home, but he's decided at some point, he's built up his kingdom. He's got this enlightened despot thing going on, but he wants to kind of get involved with foreign policy. And so his first attempt at that is, we were talking about funny wars, is the Kettle War of 1784. And I'm mentioning this only because it's weird.
Yeah, no, my imagination is already running wild. What could the Kettle War have been all about?
So one of these Catholic groups in the Holy Roman Empire that don't like his reforms are what's referred to at the time as the Austrian Netherlands, but today it's basically Belgium, more or less equates to Belgium.
Like the Low Countries.
Yeah. The Austrian Netherlands sounds like somewhere that Sauron would live, though. You know what I mean? Oh, he is from the Austrian Netherlands. The nether realm of Austria. And so he,
Isn't NetherRealm a Mortal Kombat thing? I think it is. It's the name of the company, but it's also, I think, maybe it's Outworld, but they do refer to the Nether Realms.
There are definitely Nether Realms in various pieces of fantasy and science fiction.
And Dungeons and Dragons. And also, just for all our listeners from the Netherlands, it's a weird name in English.
It's weird that it's the Netherlands, but it's also Holland and you're the Dutch.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Right.
Also, your national color is orange, but it doesn't appear on your flag. That's weird too.
That's also weird. Also, while we're in that area of the world, just going to walk down the street for this one. Thank you, Denmark, for Legos. That was tight. Good move.
No, I didn't know they were.
Can you say something about there's more Lego pieces now in existence than some other thing that there are a lot of?
There are more Lego minifigures or minifigs for fellow nerds than there are human beings alive.
What? Is that true?
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. It's like podcast true, but it is true.
Damn.
Ben, we're derailing you. So
no,
hard.
I'm derailing myself. I'm talking about the 1784 Kettle War when we're supposed to be talking about the 1788 Battle of Karánsebes. We're building up to it.
Let's spin it out though. What's the Kettle War?
It helps to know the background on Joseph II is going to help to understand what happens at Karánsebes. So Joseph II, he wants to, at home, things are going okay. All of the people in the cities are down with his stuff. A lot of the people who are a little bit less enlightened, affected by the Enlightenment, they're not down with what he's doing. So there's division within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And one of the regions that is divided is this Austrian Netherlands, which, like I said, is basically Belgium. The Austrian Netherlands borders actual Netherlands, which is Protestant at the time. And they get grumpy and they blockade the Belgian ports to deny Joseph and his ships access to the North Sea. So he says, okay, I'm going to declare war if you don't release this blockade. So he sends 3 warships to threaten the blockade. And these 3 warships go out. One Dutch warship approaches them. And one thing about the Dutch at this time is they're awesome. Their navy's awesome, right? And the Austro-Hungarian Empire is not known for having an awesome navy, but the Dutch Navy is very experienced and they're very powerful at this time period. And the Dutch Navy and sailors, they didn't have a lot of guys and a lot of ships, but what they had was a very high quality. Anyway, so there's one Dutch ship sails out to these 3 Austro-Hungarian ships, And the Austro-Hungarians are like, if you don't release the blockade, we'll fire on you and declare war. And the Dutch shoot at them. They shoot one shot, one warning shot that flies over and hits a tea kettle on one of the Austro-Hungarian ships. This is the story, is that they fire one shot and it knocks the tea kettle off of the Austro-Hungarian ship. It's the flagship, it's carrying Joseph's flag, and it immediately surrenders. A peace treaty is then signed shortly thereafter. The war lasted for one gunshot.
Oh, wow.
Austro-Hungarian flagship says, stop the blockade. The Dutch shoot this tea kettle. And I like to picture that like they were aiming for it, you know? It might have been an accident, but I was just like, bing, like some sniper round, you know? Hits the tea kettle. Captain's like, actually, never mind. I surrender.
That's amazing marksmanship. You know, at that point, I love the idea too in sort of the badass, ridiculous history cinematic universe. I love the idea of, you know, an officer class type dude lifting up, you know, the kettle or something,
Yes.
and then getting the shot through it, and then saying, "No, this is not cool. I have other stuff to do.
I want to have my tea."
Yeah, I'm seeing some like fast cuts of like a Guy Ritchie kind of thing of like pew ping. Oh, surrender.
Yeah.
Very Looney Tunes-esque.
Yes. And so they surrender. They sign a peace treaty. That doesn't work out too well. The Austrian Netherlands is still upset because they don't like that the Pope is disagreeing with the Emperor. And so Joseph II, as part of that peace treaty, is like, hey, how about this? You guys, the Dutch are holding Bavaria, which is in southern Germany and borders Austria. And I'm holding the Austrian Netherlands, which is Belgium and borders. Like, we have these disconnected empires, right? And he's like, how about I trade you the Austrian Netherlands for Bavaria?
Seems fair.
All right.
Yeah, and the Dutch are like, no, that's weird. Why would we? it's super odd. And everybody at the time writing about it is like, it's super weird that he offered to just trade regions with people with the Dutch. They said no.
And we have to be clear, just to get it out there, Ben. This is not a period in history wherein the public, the people who lived in those areas, would get a survey or a poll or a vote.
No.
Okay.
No, this is the business of kings.
All right, there we go. That's what Nola and I refer to it as whenever we're making up reasons to hang outside of work and we don't want to explain ourselves. You know, my girlfriend's like, where are you guys going? I always say, it's the business of kings.
We got to strategize. We got to have a rap sesh to figure out our plan for world domination.
Yeah, like our king stuff.
Business of kings. Save the receipts. Write them off on your taxes.
King moves.
Yeah.
King moves. Hashtag. So, okay. So this is not just a weird flex for the people, the common in the region. This is a weird flex for all international observers.
Yes. Everybody thinks it's weird that he made this offer because word gets out that he offered this trade. And it's weird. So, okay. Foreign policy is not going well for him. He travels around. He goes to Paris and Rome and Moscow, and he tries to make nice with the Pope. It doesn't work out. Okay. So Holland doesn't like him. He borders Prussia, and they've just had these two big wars with Prussia. Frederick the Great's there. They had the War of Austrian Succession. They had the 7 Years' War. Prussia is like basically like the heart of present-day Germany. They're tough guys. They're great soldiers, and they share a border, and they want to take some land from Austria. So he's got that problem too. Okay, so, but Joseph II wants to be remembered as this great ruler. And yes, I've made these great changes at home, but I need to do some big foreign policy thing in order to be remembered as this great military mind and diplomat and the greatest king ever. Okay.
My legacy.
Yes.
He's thinking about.
Yes.
Okay.
He's inheriting from his mother, who was a very powerful and very well-respected woman in Europe. And he's got big shoes to fill, and he wants to do some great things to be remembered. Okay. So Holland and Prussia aren't working out. So he makes an alliance with Russia, who had been Austria's friend during the 7 Years' War. And Russia at the time is ruled by Catherine the Great, who was the second of the powerful badass women that we were going to talk about in the episode today. She is super tough lady. Catherine the Great is extremely tough. And she was born in Germany. She probably reminds him of his mom, honestly, if I had to guess.
Okay.
But she is like, she's needing allies because, like you said, the Ottoman Empire borders him to the east, and they border Russia, and Russia wants those warm water ports in Crimea and the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. And so they want to go to war with the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire at this time spans most of the Islamic world, huge amount of land, huge number of people. But by this point, 1740s, they've got the sultans, they've got money, they've got troops, but there's the feeling that things are maybe starting to crumble a little bit, and maybe there's some weakness there.
They're losing some technological progress.
Yes, right? Yes. The Enlightenment is coming, and there's a lot of technological development happening in Europe that isn't being shared. Like military technology is happening in Europe that is not being shared with the Turks. And so they're starting to feel like maybe we can take some land from these guys. Catherine the Great has built up Russia to this very powerful military, and she wants to take lands from the Ottomans. And and this whole time period is all very like, I always think of like Civ 2 or something, like where you just make a line. Like, I gotta take.
Oh my God! That show just came up on a recent conversation.
Yeah, just like I gotta take this one town because like it's worth a lot of money. I want this city. Go to war.
For the record, I still haven't cracked it yet, y'all, but it's on my list.
You're gonna have a great time though. Are you playing Civilization 7 yet, Ben?
No, I haven't had a lot of time for games recently. It's one of those ones where like if I got to finish this project I'm working on, and then I can start a new game. But like if I start,
if you open the door,
I get sucked in. I like it too much,
I think what we're saying here is we love the comparison because there is a great deal of geopolitical calculation here, right? Russia then as now, honestly, is eternally searching for a warm water port. So it makes sense that these rulers would be pushing on the Ottomans if they can.
Yes. So great. This all works out great for Joseph. He signs the peace treaty. He goes and visits Catherine in Moscow a couple times. They sign a peace treaty or an alliance. And as part of that alliance, Catherine takes the Crimea for Russia, cough, cough, and they partition Poland up between Russia and Austria-Hungary, because that's what happens to Poland for the next couple hundred years in this time period.
All the time, yeah.
Okay, that's great, except, the Turks are even better. It's even better to be fighting the Turks than it is to be fighting the Prussians and the Dutch, because the Turks are Muslims and they're enemies, and we're not fighting other Christian kingdoms and causing problems with the Pope and all of this stuff. So it's totally cool. Austrians have been fighting the Turks since like the 1500s. Suleiman the Magnificent besieged Vienna at one point in the 1680s. So they're great enemies, and it'll be awesome to have a war with them. It'll really be how Emperor Joseph II is going to make his name as a military genius. He is going to march east from, he's made this plan with Catherine. She's going to march south from Russia. He's going to march east. At this time, the Turks control most of Romania and the former Yugoslavia. They control a lot of the Balkans. And there are elements from the Balkans that are like, you've got a Serbian regiment in the Austro-Hungarian Empire that's like, hey, we'll fight. Let's go get Belgrade back, because Serbian people are there and the Turks rule it, and they're making them all be Muslim and they're doing bad stuff. So like, let's free our homelands. And so, great. This big army is assembled. This call goes out, and it's Austrians and it's Hungarians, which do not share a language, but they are part of the same empire. You've got Germans from the various German principalities that are part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at this time. You've got Italians, like Northern Italy. There's some Northern Italy happening in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then you've got these guys that are looking to reclaim their lands. You've got Romanians, you've got Croats, Bosnians, and Serbians all working together. And so everybody is kind of united under like, let's get the Turks. Great. This seems good. All right. So you kind of have to keep up appearances at this time period. So the plan is that Russia and Austria will just F with the Turks until they get mad and attack. And then they can say, look, we were attacked. So they do
right,
that.
Right. What's
we were provoked.
Our fancy word for that is what? Belliscausi or something like that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you in Civ, it's the equivalent of like you open diplomatic relations with a foreign king, and then you like demand 3 of his cities for nothing, and then he gets mad and declares war on you. That's basically what happens here.
And you're like, whoa, these guys came at us.
Yeah, I didn't do anything.
mean?
They marched into my land first, so the Turks attacked the Russians, and then Austria-Hungary's allies with the Russians, so they got to attack.
That's why we call it Department of Defense.
Exactly. We're under attack. Okay. So 1787, war is declared between Austria-Hungary and Russia on one side, and then the Turks on the other side. Now, Joseph II has this big army, and he's about to march them out into battle with the Turks. And the Turks, they have a lot of guys. You know, they have a big army. They're extremely powerful still. So when he assembles this big army and marches them to the border with the Turks, Frederick the Great marches a huge army to his border on the western side of Austria-Hungary. And all of these Catholic people from his kingdom that don't agree with him, they start getting a little bit more organized in a rebellion or a revolt type of situation. And they say, oh, Frederick, come help us. And so now he's got a problem. He marches this huge army to his border, and then he's got to go back and march them back to these cities to put down these rebellions, or to at least discourage these rebellions and discourage Frederick. So he doesn't actually get marching until a couple months after he wanted to, because he's got to go back and deal with the Austrian Netherlands and the unrest and the Prussians. And the Prussians keep talking to the Turks, and they're like, maybe we should be allies, because I actually don't want Austria-Hungary to take your lands either.
I like, for everyone, because we're an audio podcast, I want to point out, Ben, you stroked your chin in the perfect way that people would conspire. And you know, maybe these, So we see this, we see internal dissent,
yes.
Right? We see internal chaos. We see, again, the problem of logistics, because I almost said monster. Every army marches on its stomach, right? So
yes.
We're losing the equivalent of millions of dollars.
Yes, you're losing time. Around. You're losing morale. You're losing people. People are deserting, right? And this is all to kind of paint the picture of, you have this huge army that is not homogenous. It is made up of all different people with all different beliefs, with different languages, everything. You've got this huge army that's ready to fight the Turks. They're united in that. We're going to fight the Turks, but they don't agree with each other. And so in the context of a friendly fire incident, that's an important piece to set up, I feel like.
Ooh, good call. Yeah.
For sure. Although it's like there's nothing like a common enemy to bring folks together. But in this case, there were additional complications for sure.
Yes. Okay. So Joseph II marches out, and he declares, like, I am a military genius. I am in charge of the army. I'm going to ride out by myself, the enlightened despot at the front of the group. Mozart, you're coming with me. No, not really.
I love it when they ride out into battle like that, thinking they're truly like invincible. Like just those moments of hubris, just always give me a little bit of Schadenfreude. There's nothing wrong with that.
You know, I was reading one account of it though, and I feel kind of like, I was reading it and I was like, yeah, and he wasn't a military genius, and he wasn't this, and he was like old and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, looked it up, and he was like 47. And as we're recording,
I was old for the day.
I know. As we record, today is my the day of the recording. Today's my 45th birthday. It's,
no way.
Yeah, for real, yeah.
Bury the lead. Happy birthday.
Happy New Year, Ben.
Thank you. But
now you have never strolled out onto a theater of combat and in a burst of humility declared yourself a military genius.
I suppose that's true. It is a little old to start your military career. I feel like current soldiers my age are like generals and colonels and stuff.
Or retired. Look, man.
Or retired, yeah, it's 20 years, right?
we practice positive aggressive validation on this show. So,
however, it would be weird if I was like, I'm in charge of the army now, follow me. I am a little old for that.
I think we would have to have a vote. Yeah. We be hanging out. We might not be on the front lines with you, Ben, but Max, Noel, and I would be, on the scene.
You subscribe to the vlog. You subscribe to the YouTube channel.
I'm always on the lookout for someone to blindly follow into battle. It's a bucket list item of mine. So maybe you can make that happen.
Well, let's see how that turns out. Because before
Good.
you agree to that.
Let's get a parable and a precedent. Hold the phone, or rather, hold the hussar. This turned out to be a ongoing series, a 2-part series. Noel, I'm just having a great time. It's not just because Ben is named Ben. This guy's amazing.
Yeah, I really love the Bens on this series. You guys are killing it.
Oh, no. We're killing it as a group effort. We've got the Knowles, we've got the Maxes. Speaking of, we'll play
maybe
some
killing
favorites.
it was the wrong term. With no friendly fire here, y'all. Yeah.
Yeah. We're I like that. That's something we referenced on Daily Zeitgeist earlier. We're exploring it together, and we couldn't do it without the help of our amazing team, starting with our super producer, Mr. Max Williams.
Woo, Max Williams. Max foisted on his own petard Williams.
Max the Hussar Williams. Shout out also to his biological brother, who is back in town, our bespoke composer, Alex Williams.
Bespoke indeed. Huge thanks to Christopher Asiotis and Eves Jeff Coates here in spirit, Jonathan Strickland, the Quizster, AJ Bahamas, Jacobs, the Puzzler, and Ben. Big thanks to you.
Man, I love hanging out with AJ Bahamas, and I love that we're never going to explain that nickname. Check out the Puzzler. Also, check out our rude dudes at Ridiculous Crime. And Noel, thanks to you, I can't wait to hear part 2.
Yeah. Let's see you next time, folks.